The midday sun blazed in a clear desert sky as a lone cowboy, Jake Walker, rode slowly along a narrow, winding river. Heat shimmered off the cracked earth, and a fine layer of dust clung to his clothes, his hat, and the weary lines on his face. His horse, just as tired as its rider, moved with heavy, deliberate steps. Jake had been on the trail for days, maybe weeks. The time blurred together under the relentless sun. He'd crossed jagged mountains and vast, empty plains, with only the whisper of the wind and his own haunted thoughts for company. He was a drifter, a man who skirted towns and avoided people, always moving, always running from a past he hoped to outrun. He was searching for something he couldn't name, peace, maybe, or just a quiet place where the ghosts that followed him would finally fall silent. Along his journey, he'd picked up whispers, stories told in hushed tones around campfires about a mysterious river hidden deep in Apache territory. They said its waters were sacred, that they held a power to wash away a person's deepest pains and even grant wishes. But the stories also held a warning: no outsider who found that river ever returned the same. Desperation and a sliver of hope had drawn him here, following the glint of water through the harsh landscape. As he rode beside it, the gentle sound of the current flowing over smooth stones was a soothing melody, a stark contrast to the oppressive silence of the desert. The water looked impossibly cool, impossibly clear. Finally, thirst and exhaustion won the battle against caution. Jake swung himself down from the saddle, his boots sinking into the soft sand at the river's edge. He knelt, the relief immediate as the cool air from the water washed over him. He cupped the clear liquid in his dusty hands and brought it to his lips, the taste clean and life-giving. Just as the first drops quenched his parched throat, a voice deep and powerful echoed from behind him. "That water is sacred, cowboy." Jake spun around, his hand instinctively dropping to the handle of his pistol. On the opposite bank stood an Apache chief, a figure of pure authority. He was tall and commanding, his long gray hair braided neatly down his back, his face a mask of stern dignity. Behind him, a line of warriors stood as still as statues, their dark eyes fixed on Jake, watching his every move. "You have bathed in the wrong river," the chief said, his voice firm, carrying easily across the water. "These waters are not meant for strangers." Jake slowly straightened up, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand, his heart pounding against his ribs. He raised his hand slowly to show he meant no threat. "I didn't know," he said, his voice raspy from disuse. "I'm just a traveler." "I meant no harm." The chief's expression didn't soften. "This river grants wishes," he replied, his gaze unwavering. "But every gift it gives comes with a cost. It binds people to a fate they do not choose and cannot expect." Before Jake could form a response, the chief continued, his words like stones dropping into the quiet air. "Because you have touched these sacred waters, the river has claimed you. You must now honor its will." The warriors behind the chief shifted, their movements subtle but menacing. It was then that Jake noticed a young woman standing beside the chief. She was beautiful, with long, dark hair that fell over her shoulders and eyes that were calm and steady. For a fleeting moment, their gazes met, and Jake felt an unsettling jolt, a strange sense of recognition that made no sense at all. The chief's voice broke the charged silence. "As the river demands," he declared, "you must marry my daughter." The words hit Jake like a physical blow. He froze, his mind reeling. "Marry? I never agreed to this. I don't even know her." "You broke our most ancient law when you drank from the river," the chief said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "There is no turning back. The river has chosen, and its choice must be honored." The young woman, who the chief called Nia, stood quietly, her expression unreadable. There was no anger in her eyes, no surprise, only a deep, quiet acceptance, as if she had been expecting this her whole life. Jake's heart hammered in his chest. He felt trapped, caught between a future he never wanted and a spiritual law he didn't understand. He knew, with a chilling certainty, that defying the river and these people could bring consequences far worse than a forced marriage. The days that followed were a blur of confusion and disbelief. Jake was taken to the Apache camp, a collection of hide lodges nestled in a hidden canyon. He was a prisoner, but not in chains. He was an outsider struggling to accept a reality that felt like a dream. He saw Nia often, but she remained distant, a silent figure moving through the rhythms of her village life. He started to realize that this fate wasn't just his burden. It was hers too, a duty passed down through generations, tied to the will of the river. Despite his resistance, Jake found himself drawn to her. He watched her work, her movements graceful and sure. He saw her quiet strength, her calm spirit. She wasn't weak or helpless. She was a woman shaped by her culture, her people, and the undeniable power of the river. There was a resilience in her that he hadn't seen in anyone before. One evening, as the sun dipped below the canyon walls, painting the sky in fiery shades of orange and purple, Jake found himself standing by the river again. He stared into the swirling currents, trying to make sense of how his life had been so completely derailed. He heard soft footsteps on the sand behind him and turned. It was Nia. She stood a few feet away, her dark eyes reflecting the last light of day. "You don't want to be here," she said. It wasn't a question. Jake could only nod, a lump forming in his throat. "I don't belong here," he admitted, his voice low. "I don't understand any of this. Why this is happening." "The river chose you," Nia said simply, her voice as gentle as the water beside them. "It felt the emptiness inside you. It doesn't make mistakes. You cannot escape what has already begun." "I don't know how to live this life," Jake confessed, the words raw with frustration and fear. "I'm a drifter. I don't know anything about your ways, your people." Nia stepped closer, and to his surprise, she placed her hand gently on his arm. Her touch was warm, steady. "You won't have to face it alone," she said softly. Her eyes met his, and for the first time he saw not just acceptance, but a flicker of something else, understanding, empathy, maybe even hope. "But first," she added, "you must learn to trust. Trust the river. And trust me." Jake looked into her calm, steady eyes and felt a profound shift inside him. He finally understood that this strange, unexpected fate bound them together. He was no longer just running from his past. He was running toward a future, one he could never have imagined. With a slow, quiet nod, he accepted what the river had chosen. He was ready. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more tailies from the frontier. We'll see you in the next one.